Welcome to PrideScape, the official podcast of Pride Northwest, home of the annual Portland Pride Waterfront Festival and Parade, and much more. Each month, we will be bringing you the latest Pride Northwest updates and important news and information affecting Oregon and Southwest Washington's LGBTQ+ community. To learn more about Pride Northwest, visit our website at pridenw.org. And now your host and Executive Director of Pride Northwest, Debra Porta.
Welcome to PrideScape, the official podcast of Pride Northwest. I'm your host, Debra Porta. Today, we'll be taking a look at one of Pride Northwest's newest programs, the Pride Elder Connections, launched in late 2025, so just a few months ago. Joining me today are Ian Morton, our illustrious Director of Programming, and Max Micozzi, who is a consultant working with us on this program, well known to, I'm sure, a lot of our listeners and viewers. We're super lucky to be working with Max. And we're coming together today to talk about the origins of the Pride Elder Connections program, highlight achievements so far. It's a very new program, so achievements is it's a loose word, shall we say, and kind of reflect on where we're at, what's impacting us, where we are going, where we'd like to go maybe, and kind of just have a really good conversation about it. Max and Ian, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm going to say I love being illustrious, but I'm also going to say I'm very well illustrated with my Pride Northwest Dream Big 2025 gear. So, illustrious, illustrated, I'm here for it.
Ian is representing always. I'm walking rainbow. It's all right.
Yeah.
Well, Max, let's start with you. You and I had a conversation last year that was not about let's start a program, right? It was really, as I recall, we were really just dealing with what was beginning to unfold around us and what we saw coming. From your perspective, when, and you could very well say 10 years ago, because you've been working on this for a long time, when did the realization come that we actually needed to put together a formal something, a structure? It wasn't just about responding to emergency, but putting together an actual cohesive, fleshed out, elder specific action in Pride Northwest, really.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. And when it really starts to stand out for me, because we did do a lot of work during COVID, and we were doing the in between the scenes things as well. But I think the Friendsgiving event in 2024, we had the event, it was well attended. And I believe you and I met after that, and it became really evident that this old president regime returning was going to try to pass a bill that would impact all older adults or people receiving Medicaid services and other types of benefits that they earned. And I do think that it became more of a reality when I met with Ian, and there may have been a potential for a grant to apply for, addressing specifically like some of the work we were already doing. And in that time, we had helped somebody through a crisis together in which social services were involved, but the things that Ian and I did and Pride Northwest did, no other organization was able to do. And there's a whole lot of people out there that are wonderful people, hit a little brick in the road, and their life gets so deeply impacted, and there's nothing like community to be there to help lift somebody up. So that I think of that, but looking back since 2016 and Trump came into office then, LGBTQ, IA2S plus older adults have been a target through the Older Americans Act. So I can go back that far and say we were sending and doing certain kind of call to actions as early as I think it was February 2020. I'm sorry, 2017.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's been a long time coming, and you mentioned an interesting point that I think is a big part of, other than just simply wanting to be there for our community, this piece around, and I've said this before, Pride Northwest isn't a quote unquote direct service agency. That's not the center of how we exist, but it is an area that we are called into more and more. What we are, though, is community. And I think that, and we'll get into more of this as we talk along, but I think that was also for us a significant part of the appeal of just recognizing that it's true for all of our community, but I think even more so when we start talking about our elders in terms of who they trust, who they're going to allow into difficult parts of their lives and depend on and be able, so for us, having been building and having built relationships with people, connections, being well known, etc., I think that's just important in how we're even facilitating what we're doing. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there and call that out, because I think it is an element that I don't want to just state that what we're doing is super duper unique, because I'm sure that there's something out there somewhere, but the community element, I think, does set what we're doing apart just a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll interject a little bit because I think we all have parts of the origin story. And I even before I worked for Pride Northwest, the moment that Deborah and I started having conversations around if we put our Wonder Twin powers together, what could we do? Our elders community was always centered in those discussions, and it has always been centered in all three of our work. And I think we're lucky that we also both got to become fans of you, Max, along the journey. And yes, it has been that organic work of what does it look like to just show up in spaces and do what is asked of you from the senior community without trying to impose what you think the senior community wants on them, to build that trust and to show the respect. We respect that you know what you want. How can we be a part of helping make that happen?
Yep, absolutely. Yes. Oh yeah.
And I think I just want to also say that Pride stepping into this space and being a part of it, it does seem like a natural evolution. And the more work I'm doing with you all, I cannot say how much more I appreciate being exposed to this. For a while, like so many people, not knowing all the things that Pride Northwest is doing, people make assumptions. And I think for me, I couldn't think of a better organization ready for that blossoming part, because, traditional services still ask a lot and create a lot of boundaries and barriers for older adults to access. And we're not in the social services agency area of service, but what we are doing is a recipe that is unique, and it does build into trust of older adults in ways that they are very skeptical to accept assistance otherwise. And I don't even consider myself an assistant. I just consider myself a person who's sorry that these barriers exist. I'll do my hardest to lower them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of, you've kind of alluded to some of this, Max. What, when we think about what we're doing and what we want to do and where we're going, what is the gap that this program is filling and or attempting to fill? What are we actually responding to? in bringing this program to the forefront. And what do you think that looks like?
Well, I think of the survey that we released back April last year that informed us a
Was
lot
that
where
long
people are
ago?
at.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Time is flying.
And that was a very informative survey because we
Mhm.
were really trying to tap into the areas that we could foresee would be challenging or creating challenges for older adults pretty soon, like the
Yeah.
SNAP benefits and utilities. And we all know that there's a major housing crisis in this city. And so I think, when we talk about the gap, I reflect on that survey, and safety net is one thing that comes up for us because of one of the grants we received allows us to be able to operate in a place where there may be times that we could assist somebody who has a financial need, potentially with a utility or food or rent, and could not get it anywhere else or wouldn't ask anyone else.
Right.
There's that.
Yeah.
And so I think that what we're doing right now is building off of the survey, understanding that people are not prepared for emergencies the way that the word should not be used here, but could be. We'd like to see people to be able to survive through a time of losing electricity or fresh water or whatever it may be. And again, these are services that are not available to older adults through a process and organization like Pride Northwest. We've talked to the American Red Cross that you all are working with. Would that be the best group to present to a group of LGBTQI and 2S plus older adults? I'm not sure.
Right.
Would we? Now that I have gone through a training, we are able to alter it because the needs and what we're bringing along with us if we need to leave our home during an emergency could be very unique to our cisgender or heterosexual counterparts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and I think to jump a little bit, it really is the work that we do is about filling those gaps. And so I think, if we want to run with that metaphor, sometimes it is about then building the bridge over the gap.
Thank
So
you.
what is the bridge to knowledge, and how can we bring that to the forefront if the space where such knowledge is being disseminated is not safe for queer folks? What is the bridge to social connection if upon reaching what has romantically been called your golden years, you're in a space where it's no longer safe for you to be out in your identity? How are we bridging that social gap? How are we bridging that gap to resources? How are we creating spaces where resources can be procured in a safe and supportive and uplifting, joyful manner? I think I think those are the opportunities that we have. It's kind of in what we do. Visibility, celebration, education is or the pillars of Pride Northwest. So we have an opportunity to shine a spotlight on what our queer seniors are experiencing, but we have an opportunity to educate in a celebratory space, in a space where we are having joy with each other. And I think that's so important. It's what I want. I'm heading toward eligibility to be a part of the elders. 4 years away.
You're the youngest person in the room.
I know, but we all got the white hair though, so
earned all of it. All
exactly.
of it.
Yes.
No, you're definitely, Ian, you just hit on something that we've been at one of the many meetings that we go to has been it's actually based in Washington County, but it is an emergency response. It's their emergency response folks convening community organizations, and we've participated in those meetings at least off and on for a couple of years, and that was something that was very obvious to me when I first started attending those meetings, because one of the conversations was where would points of if folks needed to evacuate or if folks needed to access a resource or get somewhere, who are the people, who are the places that could serve as those stations,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And, in thinking about our folks, none of them, and there were some great organizations in there, but none
Mm-hmm.
of them, in my mind, were going to be at the top of the list in thinking about, particularly our elders, if they needed to literally escape their home and get somewhere safe, where would they feel safe at? Where would they feel seen at? Where would they feel um, like a space that they could be in? And
Mm-hmm.
that's a real thing. There are even queer spaces that that our elders wouldn't necessarily feel is the space for them to go to. This
Yeah.
is not a blanket kind of thing. So,
No.
a lot of what and I know we're kind of drifting into the next, kind of want to get into some nitty gritty. You mentioned the survey, Max, and that's really, really a lot of what we've done so far. If you want to,
Mm-hmm.
label it as an accomplishment or a victory or whatever, obviously the program is new, is literally
Mm-hmm.
the listening part. The
Mm-hmm.
what do our elders need from safety net resource?
Mm-hmm.
What do our elders need from emergency response resource,
Mm-hmm.
right? What do our elders want and need when it comes to creating a space of joyous community together,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
what are the overlaps of all those things? So there's
Yes.
been a lot of time spent talking to people and getting
Mm-hmm.
that information and putting it into action, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been important too for this program to lean into other resources out there. And like Ian brought up, like, the building of the bridge over the gap,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And we too are trying to do our best at vetting because we know people are very good at well-intentioned, but the experience of the older adult accessing healthcare
Mm-hmm.
services or walking into a senior community, that's one thing they have in common, but is it going
Yeah.
to be queer friendly from not just staff, but other residents?
Right.
So yeah, to me, there's this opportunity for other organizations to learn about us. For instance, the Community for Positive Aging just finished a little series of emergency response trainings for seniors. And they said, we're really glad that we changed some of the slides. If you're going to do it, you're probably going to need to change some of the slides to have them be more aligned with the population we're serving. And so
Mm-hmm.
here we get back into this niche of like, in all the ways we're different, we have a lot of commonalities. However, who's going to get the call? Like, I need your help. Or,
Mm-hmm.
who are we going to act as a, recommend a service for some assistance if it's not us doing it.
Yeah.
So the building of the partnerships is important for us because we can't do it alone, even though we may stay unique, and we may stay, in a place where funding will allow us to do some things that other organizations cannot.
Mm-hmm.
And the typical organization, and this is going to probably extend even more when we talk about Medicaid and the OPI, Oregon Project Independence piece, where older adults are going to have to start to go through a bigger process to get certified.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm trying to remember the things I was going to bring up in that certain kind of concept, but
Well, I mean, I think it's important though that because and we can dig a little bit into. I think it would be useful to kind of paint the picture. We've alluded to. We started having these conversations when we could see, feel and see what is going to be coming down the pike, for example.
mm-hmm,
And maybe we should
mm-hmm,
enumerate some of that so that
mm-hmm,
folks also understand the scale of why it needed a programmatic response.
mm-hmm,
With the budget cuts at all levels, starting with the federal level,
mm-hmm,
elimination of programs, just the economy as a whole, which is it's all rolling on itself, right? Building on itself. So maybe because one of the things we didn't discuss is you, Max, you're active in these arenas at the state level as well, and so you have a window into how are things being managed and dealt with at government level, so to speak, because particularly when it comes to our elders, there's such a direct impact there.
Yeah.
So maybe a short-ish, what are the top things that have really, driven us to even seriously take this step?
Yeah. Well, I would say, if we talk about the things that have already been announced, like we know the SNAP benefits are being reduced for folks who fit within a window under 65 and up to, I think it's 62, have to report if they are trying to look for work to receive their SNAP benefits. As when I look at LIHEAP, the low-income housing assistance or utility assistance programs, they have been cut. What Oregon has been good at is stashing away some money. But just this week, sitting in a meeting for the subcommittee on aging for LGBT elders, that's we've been appointed by the governor. We had somebody from Aging and Disability Services come and speak to us about the shortfalls that we can see in the next biennium. Right. So what we know is happening now is people are starting to, the cost of food. Let's not forget the biggest elephant in the room is how much food has gone up. So you've got people living on small and utilities, exactly. Gasoline, if people can even afford having a car, right?
Right.
But what they're announcing is that for this year, we're going to be okay outside of the cuts we've seen with the Oregon Food Bank. The state is doing its best to cover SNAP benefits and have ancillary services and provide money providers to provide services. Sorry, I'm trying to be specific here because a lot came to us.
Yeah.
Every biennium, it is asked there be a 5% reduction from all of the different programs that are submitted to the governor. So DHS, it's a 5% reduction. They were told for the 2027 biennium, it will start with a 10% reduction. And this person said this is when the quality of life services start to really get cut.
Yeah.
So as we look at 2026, we're already seeing people scraping by being able to afford food. We've offered a pantry. We've had some people ask for assistance through our safety net program, and now we have a form for people to fill out. And as well, we just know that is going to grow. And I do think another thing, just so folks know, that Justice and Aging, it was a national organization that was funded by the Department of Justice, lost their funding. They are starting to report on what's going to be happening with Medicaid come next year. And this will impact Oregon, in which one Medicaid case manager who would approve a person for their yearly, accreditation or whatever you want to call it, will now have to do this operation 3 times a year with one client. So a worker's load will triple with the same amount of clients because they have to keep checking in. So that's the administration is creating those kind of gaps, and the state of Oregon doesn't even have enough people hired to be Medicaid case managers. Yeah. So, we are projecting a little bit, but we're also in the mix of it. And it is kind of like we don't want to sit and wait because we can't lean into our government to just be there for all of this, right? But we also have to be in conversation on a regular basis, staying caught up so that we understand, based off of the needs that we're aware of older adults that we've had contact with, that we understand how we can be more helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And one more example I'm going to bring up is HUD. So HUD has lost quite a bit HUD has lost quite a bit of funding. The way this will incrementally go down state by state will start to show up more and more because, there has been a little bit of a budget set aside for some organizations, but we know, for instance, that one of our advisory council members who lives in a HUD facility, the building just sold to a for-profit agency.
Yeah.
That place has been there 50 years. Nobody ever put it up for sale before. And here it is, it's sold. And so I'm like, is this the kind of thing that we need to keep an eye out on? Mm-hmm. Is this person going to receive a letter saying that her rent is going to go up and it will be legally raised? So, a little bit of projection work for us, but at the same time and let's not forget, social connection is something we offer.
This is part of even the work that, and you've definitely talked about this whole making sure that people even understand what's coming, right? Because if you don't know it's coming at all, or don't understand it, or are overwhelmed by it, you can't prepare for it. You can't respond to it in any sort of stable way, right? So you're right. A lot of what we're doing is projecting forward for what are people going to be facing? What are people going to be hit with, right? And obviously, in this case, we're talking about our elders. And what can Pride Northwest prepare for? What role roles can we play in this, particularly this safety net arena, to ensure that people survive? I mean, that's the kind of conversation we've had. It's to get really blunt, is like, what do we need to do to make sure that people have food in their house? What can we be doing to make sure that people don't lose their housing, right? How do we make sure that our folks are able to get to all those appointments and get to the doctor and have someone to call if there's an emergency or whatever it happens to be? And because the whole thing is overwhelming, and you're right, we can't do everything. We cannot do all of it. Our goal and our priority is identifying those areas, those gaps that we can put a little bit of a net under so that people don't fall through, right? That's the whole point, is this safety net.
Yes.
So we could, there's just a lot. And it's I mean, if it's overwhelming for us to even be talking about, you just picture how overwhelming it is for the people who are experiencing it. And it's our elders deserve better than that, basically. I'm just gonna say it. And you just mentioned the community piece, because that's the other part of this, is what can we be doing to ensure that not only are we safety netting where we can safety net, right, and where we're able to, but doing everything we can to ensure that our elders are connected to each other, that they're connected to us, that we're here for them, they're there for each other, we're all in it together. And can communicate and respond to and have a good time with, because at the end of the day, life is going to be hard one way or the other. So you got to have a good time or it's not worth it. So it's
Deborah, preach.
And this is where the conversations that we've had and are having and will continue to have with our queer elders about what does all that look like to them, and where do they need us to be, and where do they want to be with each other. I know that's a big part of what you spend your time doing, is this connection piece. What you two, y'all, especially working together on let's talk about the council. What's the council? How come, we need people to get involved in the council. What is all that look like?
Yeah, I'll start a little bit with this. I'm not going to directly answer your question, but I do want to build on what you were saying, Deborah, this idea of what it looks like for community to show up, no matter, not every person listening to us talk right now, watching us talk, are elders or even looking for the service piece. But we can't, I don't think we can stress enough the fact that we've gotten to where we've gotten as a queer community together. We can say like, oh, I stand on the shoulders of, and yes, you do stand on the shoulders of many of you. So don't forget about those who have done the work, who have created the accomplishments that have brought us where we are. And just as a community watching out for each other, you may have 2 or 3 elders in your life. Make sure you're watching out for them. If they slip out of communication, what are you doing to check and make sure things are all right? And if you are someone who is of our elder age and a friend stops coming to a social thing or isn't singing with you anymore in the choir that you sing together, you might be okay and the person beside you may not be. And this is going to lead into what we're talking about with both the council and also the work that we're building, the resources that we're building, is how do we continue to look out for each other as a community, no matter where we're at in the age range, but especially wherever we're at in our own levels of privilege, of socioeconomic status. How are we doing this together? Because we can't afford not to do it together.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Talk about preaching. You said it.
Right. See where I learned it from. Well, Max, if to that point, let's talk about the council and where it came from, what's happening, how's it working?
Yeah. Well, we started meeting after our first inaugural celebration, in which you were there, and we presented to a group of, I think it was around 30 people, and kind of launched what we were trying to do and started engaging people there. So the advisory council now, and we're using some terminology that may shift and change. That's the other thing. In the midst of all of this, we don't have to do things all the same way. This could be considered a wisdom council. This could be considered so many things. But this group today meets quarterly. We were meeting monthly, and realizing that maybe it would be a better idea to start meeting quarterly. And it is a group of older adults that represent different socioeconomic situations, different backgrounds, different races, different age ranges, and act as advisors to some of the work. And part of the work that I'm doing with you all is to kind of keep the grant on track, right? Like we've got this grant, we made these, and it's not making promises. It's the promises to our older adults. We got to make sure we fulfill what we're going to do here. So the council's been meeting, been advising on ways to do certain things, like our phone tree idea came out of a council member who likes the idea of people checking in on each other through texting or phone calling. And so we're starting to build that up. And I've been on the side kind of trying it out for size, so I would know what it would be like for a volunteer to provide somebody who is in need of support, often unconditional. And this is another area where this person doesn't have the socioeconomic situation as an issue, but does not lean into regular social services, but leans into community. And this is the beautiful thing, chosen family is like 60 people showing up for this one person. And these people used to date 50 years ago, right? This is a learning lesson on building friendships that last. Being there for one another as we get older. I'm sure some people maybe fell out of touch with each other and came back in. Like, that's pretty normal. One thing I admire about this group of people is they are showing that they have a track record of showing up for one another and being there. And so the phone tree, moving back to the phone tree, I'm part of that group, keeping, tabs, checking in on this person. I happen to live very close to this person. And one thing about the phone tree, it is helping somebody that, at least letting them know that you're there so they don't fall or slip through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And, going through a treatment can be very lonely. So that the phone tree was something that, the hopes is the more that we are able to form the concept in which we're helping one another as peer-to-peer support, being there as a second pair of eyes, or leaning in, finding out somebody didn't show up for choir practice and you found out they fell and they need help with their dog getting walked. The things that show up in just a simple fall.
Oh, yeah.
So in that project, the phone tree project, also could help link folks who may need a little bit more assistance. Mm-hmm. And that can also happen during inclement weather, wildfires. You and I did a bunch of work during wildfire season in 2020 that no other organization we knew of could do. And I was working with a social services agency that mm-hmm. could not fill these specific areas of needs that were important for those people to live during a wildfire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you're right. It's, I think it's just reinforcing this whole idea around, we've gotten so used, so two things. We've gotten so used to, if something needs to get done, there's an agency for it, or there's a company for it, or there's a organization for it. There's a formal something, right? And we've too often, in my opinion, moved away from, let me just call my friend, let me just call the circle, let me just, so I need somebody to come help mow my lawn, right? It's not, we're not even talking often about large, significant things, but they become quality of life things if you're not able to address them. Even, I'm not in the category yet, but I'm pretty close, right? I'm like right on top of it. And even I have had to start thinking about what it is that I'm capable, me or my wife, what it is that we're capable of doing and not doing, and where are we going to need support. And in thinking about how complicated it could be to call somebody, especially if you don't have the money for it. But I don't know, it's just the whole concept around, you named it, it's chosen family, it's our community, it's the village, right? We're all in this space, and at some point we show up for each other. And the phone tree is a perfect example of that. Because it also, a phone tree sounds really simple. It's like, yeah, mm-hmm. It's a list, it's a whatever. But then you start thinking about, well, we need to know who people are. What are people's safety levels? What are people's comfort levels? What mm-hmm. what looks like what, really? And it's been a very sort of methodical rollout for that mm-hmm. that is, you've been working on it for months, and it's still at the very infancy stages, because this is where we don't take risks with our people. Yeah. And that becomes important. Yeah. And, to your earlier point too, around, it's not just about making sure that people are safe. I'm not opening my door to somebody that I don't know. Uh-huh. Right? It's about our elders also being comfortable in knowing that they're safe in whatever it is that's happening. So it's all of these pieces going into this and building this. It's a culture of all of the things that go into community caring for itself, including the safety of itself. And I think that's the differentiation between what we're trying to move to and get to and build, and what is most typically seen as a service, right? Or a resource. Um, and I think that's just we're building the underpinning of the culture of this program that we want to uh, basically hold. Whatever it is we're doing in 5 years, the task may be different, but it's the culture that we're building, the culture of how we're manifesting this and how our people are engaging and strengthening all together. Because to your point, we know that we're in this time period and we had all of this, like the world is just, but the world is worlding big time. But what are we building for the other side? Right. And for me, this is a lot of building for it. Yes, we're responding. We're responding to crisis, but there's no point in surviving the crisis if there's nothing to look forward to. So that to me is the other piece of this, of building this culture of our community being responsible for our community and really, really, bringing it back to that piece and doing it in real time. I had a little soapbox moment. Ian knows, like, oh, there she goes. Okay. Ian, Max and I talk a lot. You should know that by now.
I am fully aware, and I'm here for it. Because you're saying all the things that are true. We're looking for joy in a time when we on a national level are compromised. And I think it's really, and we have not just about let's serve our elders. Also, our elders have been through crises without the benefit of social media, of cell phones. There is some level of knowledge that is necessary for us to be learning around what does it mean to build community. Everyone's trying to find the communication app that's the least monitored or policed and is going to get them in trouble for having a conversation that might have this content or that content. Trying to figure out what platforms are the least compromised. We're in a time where some of that old school connection is really what's going to help us survive and find meaning at this time. And I think that's to me what it is about still being able to find meaning of self, meaning of identity, meaning of talent, of joy, of community.
So what you're saying is that we're actually going to have to knock on each other's doors and
exactly
be That's scary for a lot of people. Just saying.
It is. COVID did not help.
No, COVID did not help.
And that's another thing that it feels almost like a 1-2 punch where we were coming out of COVID and there were lessons learned and there was grief felt around what it meant to be disconnected from each other. And I always, the optimist in me was like, okay, once we sort of get over this hurdle, we will remember what we lost in the pandemic. And then now we're hit with other factors that are making it harder to connect, making it harder to be in space together, because you have to make so many choices, because you have to, we're seeing folks who are being asked, who are already struggling, being asked and forced to eke out a survival and having to spend all of their time trying to just maintain. And then there's no time, there's no energy to seek out that joy that we've already had, 3 years of not being able to access because we were separated from each other during the pandemic.
So true.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that, the older adults that we serve, or, just in general, aging is not an easy thing. and that, the traumatic lens that people are expected to operate under right now. I think of older adults. I'm 63, but I'm thinking of those who are in their 80s, who survived what they had to survive to come out and be the person who they are. And now they have to watch, the unfolding of what's happening in the US, along with manage an impossible budget. It's asking somebody to be their strongest at a time for some when they are at their most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Or feel vulnerable. Even I feel more vulnerable than I did 10 years ago. And looking forward, I guess I'll still feel that way. I will say that if we make it through this presidency and everything that's gone on, the other side will have some even more joy. We'll have that much more to celebrate. And I just also want to say that a lot of folks that we spend time with are a lot of fun to be around.
Oh,
and I do anything to milk joy from them and to them, because I know that there is laughter there. There is a way to celebrate. We're humans, we're still here. And that's the thing I always tell myself. I could still enjoy people. That's never going to change. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going. There's a concept here that really matters. And I think that,
I think it does matter. So much of, obviously, with Pride, we spend time in all kinds of spaces, right? And all through all the generations.
Yes, you do.
And there is none of this is blanket, but there is I see a lot of fear, a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, a lot of stress, a lot of in the younger generations, because it's just a barrage. It's just one thing after the other. And, above and beyond a lot of that, I see a lessening of hope, right? There's not an expectation that things will get better, even if you do the work for them, right? And that's just one of those things that, until you've been around for a while to see the cycles, and I realize that we can all look back and blame whoever we want to blame for why it is that we're where we're at. Generations have always had that tendency to blame who comes before and who comes after. I get all that. But there is reality in what the learning that comes from just literally experiencing the ups and downs of life and figuring out how to navigate that and deal with it. And that's where strength comes from, right?
And I'm going to say everything that you all are saying is that perfect segue as we get ready to talk about part 2 of this, our future aspirations and community action.
Oh, exactly. That's the whole point, is that, I know we have conversations with several of the elders that we engage with around. They have a real desire to talk to and talk with younger people. And it's not just to let me share all my knowledge with you. They
want to hear.
Our elders want to share what they have learned so that it doesn't get lost. And they want to learn from and share the sort of exuberance that comes from being younger, right? You get older, you get tired, right? Tired. So there is a real desire there. Again, it's not about, let me just teach you how to be. It's a very mutual engagement feeling that I've had a conversation about with so many of our elders, and really trying to figure out how to create those opportunities. And that is definitely a big piece in our bucket that we're planning around and looking at. For everyone listening, this is a 2-part episode. And we're winding down the first part, which was super dense. We talked about a lot of stuff, but be sure and tune in and look forward to the second part of this episode when we're going to talk about that future. What does it look like on the other side? What are we actually building? Where do we want to engage? Who do we want to engage with us, and how you can do that? And now we get to talk about the fun part. So we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to PrideScape, the official podcast of Pride Northwest, with Executive Director, podcast producer, and host, Debra Porta. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information on what you heard here today and to support the work of Pride Northwest, go to pridenw.org.